Hi everyone, welcome back to season 3 of the How to Do It video series that's become so popular around the world. We've now, just so you know, we've now got this translated into 8 different languages. So amazingly, I now speak perfect Hindi and I speak perfect Mandarin, and bizarrely, and really it highlights that if you watch these things in the various languages and my mouth is moving, speaking words in Mandarin or in Hindi or whatever, and what you recognize, because it's done so well, AI has done it so well, that really nothing that you can watch you can ever trust again. So please trust us anyway, because anyone can say anything. You can take it's my voice speaking a language I can't speak, 8 languages I can't speak, and it looks like I'm speaking them. So you can fake anything. Deep fake is very much an immediate reality. And that's just a tiny example of it. But what we hear, we respond to queries, and someone said, well, could you show us just, I talk about the importance of the ultimate wellness tool, the home garden, producing your own food for yourself and your family. There's nutrient-dense food, chemical-free food, with the forgotten flavors and the extended shelf life, and most importantly, stuff you can eat immediately from your garden. 10 minutes later, it's on the table. And that's huge in terms of nutrient retention, because people don't understand how much you lose. Look, you take snow peas for 12 hours after harvest, 50% of the vitamin C is gone. You'll never get better food than that which is consumed immediately after harvest. And the only way you can do that is to have your home vegetable plot. So what we're really going to demonstrate here is what we call nutrition gardening, but we're going to show how easy it is. Well, easy for me, not so easy for Carl, because what we've taken is this plot under this old tree, and you might say, why are you growing next to a tree? It's going to steal your nutrition. Well, this is a deciduous tree, and we grow in southeast Queensland predominantly in the winter. That's when we grow our vegetables and so forth. So we're going to plant this out in a whole variety of vegetables, and we're going to show you how we do that and how simple it is to create your own. So this was covered in weed, basically. Its history was that it was excavated, this bank was excavated out, and this was just solid clay under this tree. And the tree's not particularly healthy. I don't know how much longer it's going to be with us, but it has beautiful flowers in spring still. And so what we did was we took a truckload of free council mulch, which is I think 6 or 7 tons, and we dumped it all over here. So it's about this thick over this little square. And then we just left it. And that clay turned into this black soil. Now, that's the power of mulch. It's amazing stuff. We haven't put any nutrition in here at all. We've just put the mulch. So we've never tested the pH. And the starting point for your home garden always is you're going to check pH and understand the power of pH in terms of pushing nutrient uptake into the food you're going to be feeding yourself and your family. And the ideal pH where everything is most available is a pH using this technique I'm about to teach you. It's very simple. A pH of 6.4. So what we're going to do is we're going to take half soil, so we're going to take half the amount of soil and an equal amount of water. So we'll do that now. So we'll take a little bit of soil here, and half soil, half, just take some of the grass out of there. So we've taken our soil and we're going to take deionized water. Now, it's really important. What is deionized water? Deionized water. It's water that has basically steam that's been condensed, and there's no minerals in it. We don't want minerals that can affect the pH. We want a neutral water with no, there could be calcium in here that will affect pH and so forth. So this is neutral. And we're going to add equal amounts. So it's very simple, half soil, half water. So we'll put our equal amount of water in there. Let's see what that's up to. It's about a third of the way. So we want it to be 2/3 of the way when it's finished, which is that. Very simple. And then we're going to shake it vigorously for 30 seconds. And what we're trying to do is extract the pH which we're going to measure. Then we leave it 5 minutes, let it settle. It's just a standard process. It's a 30-second shake, 5 minutes, and then we're going to use, you can use a pH meter. Obviously, if you're a farmer and you've got a pH meter, it's more efficient, but we're going to use these graduated that are in 0.2 pH strips and just get a bit of a feel for what we need. And if we find that it's below 6.4, then a very safe standard rate of lime is 2 tonnes per hectare. Now, 2 tonnes per hectare is 2 kilos per 10 square metres. And if we're below 6.4, we will be putting 2 kilos per 10 square metres of lime onto the soil. So that's sufficient time. And we're going to wait for 5 minutes. And while we're waiting, Carl will demonstrate how we took this in a period of, what would you say you was involved here?
20 minutes?
20 minutes. We've taken this, it was basically just this thick in weed. We brush cut it, and then Carl's using a tool called a broad fork. You can see it working here. And you're not turning it over, you're not horribly disturbing the soil, you're just loosening it up. And that's all that's required. And even though it looks messy and you might want to see it with no weed and no anything, and there's no problem with this. We're going to put the required nutrients, some compost and some other things, and we're going to teach you how simple it is to set up a food garden. And then when we're finished planting out, we've got a bunch of seedlings here. We're going to show you how you treat the seedlings beforehand. It's very simple, but a very good response. And then when we've planted it all, we're going to mulch it. And we'll probably use sugarcane mulch, and we'll mulch the whole thing. So it doesn't matter that it looks messy if you want to have it all spotless and sifted of all the weed matter. The weed matter turns into humus. It's not a problem at all. And all that's required is this minimum disturbance with a broad fork, and he's pretty good at this. And that's plenty for the roots to move their way down. If you're using seedlings, it probably wouldn't be the perfect seed bed if you were going to plant carrot seeds or something. You might have to work it with a rake and make it a little finer and perhaps pull out some of the weed matter. But for what we're doing, this is perfect. We'll plant out the seedlings, we'll treat them first, we'll put in the ameliorants, so it'll be super fertile and ready to go. And then we'll just use 2 things that will come back and foliar spray that cover all bases, and we'll talk about them in a moment. But initially, we can see Carl's finished in his last little run on the broad fork, and that will give us wonderful tool. He's so quick at it, it's wonderful. So that's how many square metres have we got here? First of all, we need to know how many square metres this new bed is. So Carl's going to pace it out, and we'll find out what we're at in terms of our ameliorants. How much is it?
20.
20 square metres in total?
Yeah, 5 by 4.
Okay, so 5 by 4, so we've got 20 square metres. So we talked about the concept of 2 tonnes per hectare, which is 2 kilos per 10 square metres. So really this whole thing, if we need lime, will just be 4 kilos over the whole area. 2 kilos per 10 square metres, it's 20 square metres. Are you sure that's right? It looks bigger than that. But it's 5 by 4, is it?
Yep. 1.
6, you mean?
Maybe 6.
6 by 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more like 6 by 5. It's more like 30 square metres. Yeah, 25 to 30 square metres. So as I pointed out, 2 kilos per 10 square metres, we're probably going to be adding 5 or 6 kilos of lime and whatever else. We'll talk about the rates, but that's how you work it out. So we'll say it's 30 square metres, and then we'll apply accordingly. So let's have a look. We've had our 5 minutes. Let's see where we're at. So you get these pH strips, as I mentioned, or a pH meter, and they have a little colour chart with them. And so that gives you your guidance of what your pH is. And let's see where we're at. You buy them just for a couple of dollars for a whole booklet full of these pH strips. And then we're simply going to dip one of the pH strips into here, and we're going to see what colour we come up with. Now, if you look here, the lighter it is, I'll show you here if you can see, the lighter it is, the lower the pH. The darker it is, the higher the pH. And what we're looking at is a soil that's about between there and there. So basically we're looking at a pH of about 6. So a little bit of lime is not going to go astray. I think we'll work on putting the lime that we talked about. We might use that 6. So as I said, a standard rate of lime is that basic concept of 2 tonnes per hectare, which is 2 kilos per 10 square metres. We talked about 30 square metres. 3 times 2 is 6. We might put 5 kilos of lime spread out over this as a starting point. So we'll do that now. We'll spread the 5 kilos of lime. And then the fertilisers that we're going to choose to use for this, and we'll just get them out if we can, the carbon and the Life Force Gold. We'll get them out in a moment to show you these. We'll just put them down here. So what we've found to be very productive with both of these, so Life Force Gold is a composted fertilizer with everything added. So it's got all sorts of things like lime and gypsum added to the composted fertilizer. It's got all of the trace minerals boosted. It's organically certified, so it's got things like guano added in to give a bit more of a fertilizer. It's based on composted chicken manure, but then all these other things added. So it's a complete fertilizer. Even molybdenum and so forth is included, and most home gardeners are never going to do those kind of minerals. So that's Life Force Gold. And what we would do, a really productive rate, even for commercial growers, and a lot of commercial growers use this, is 2 tonnes per hectare. So 2 tonnes per hectare, when we talk about it, again, it's just like the lime rate. 30 square metres, 2 kilos per 10 square metres, 6 kilos of Life Force Gold is the 2 tonnes per hectare rate. You could go even a little higher. We might even go 7 or 8 kilos. It won't hurt. It's just going to give us a nice little kick. And the compost, same deal. 2 tonnes per hectare of carbon, maybe a little more. So we might go 8 kilos of both of those. It's going to give us a nice little kick start. So we'll do the lime first, and then we'll apply 8 kilos of each of these two over this area. We'll rake it in. Normally with the lime, if you're using powdered lime, you'd wait for a little bit because lime can burn. But at 2 tonnes per hectare, and it's in a superfine granular form, and we've got plenty of carbon in this mixture, what we'll find is that it won't burn. It's going to take a little while for that lime to release in there because it's in a granular form, but it's super fine, so it will kick in. It's our product, the superfine lime, and a fine 2 to 5 mil granule. So we'll put them all in together. We'll sort of rake over it, and then we'll take the seedlings, which we've got here, and we'll show you what we do with the seedlings to get them kick-started and get them colonized with mycorrhizal fungi right from the start. And then we'll talk about the ongoing treatment of that, that 2 to 3 month crop. And we've got a whole range of vegetables here, and that's normally that sort of 2 to 3 month time period. And there's just 2 inputs that we use, and I'll describe them shortly. So now Carl's going to spread our 6 kilos of lime just evenly over the area. And of course, we've talked all about how important calcium is. We've talked about its effect on pH, but there's much more happening than that with calcium as a nutrient. And this very, very fine granulated lime, here it is here, Nutrilime Superfine, agricultural lime in a granulated form, will kick in very, very quickly. Lime usually takes between 1 year and 2 years, depending on its particle size. This is quite rapid because it's super fine. It's down to sort of 100 micron in a granular form. So it will kick in very, very quickly and give us that calcium food response and that calcium effect upon pH to lift our pH to that 6.4 where everything is most available. So Carl's just very simply, what we're demonstrating here is this whole process. When we finish it, I reckon in under an hour, we've created a food garden, which is going to be a wonderful little asset to walk down from the house and help ourselves to this new food garden. And so anyone can do this. It's very simple, and we're just teaching you how simple it is. And we'll take some before and after, and we'll take some photos as it grows, and you can see we're going to mulch it once we're finished. Well, as I said, we'll use probably sugarcane mulch. And once we've planted it, we'll mulch all of that. But you'll see how quickly and how nicely it comes away in subsequent photos. So Carl's almost finished with his application of the appropriate amount of lime, which we said was the 6 kilos per. And it's, it's more than what you'd think for 6 kilos, but it's that's about it there, is it? Yep, that's our lime spread, as simple as that. And next we're going to spread the 8 kilos we mentioned of the Life Force Gold and the 8 kilos of that very good composted fertilizer called carbon, which is based on a bunch of, rather than being just a good compost, it's had 30% brown coal added to that compost. And that composting process, the biological hothouse that is good composting, basically creates a scenario where the humic and fulvic acid, which is at very high levels in some of these brown coals, and we've chosen one with very high levels of humic and fulvic acid, they're made available during the composting process. So you've got all of the benefits we've talked about before relative to humic and fulvic acid coming through in this carbon, including this wonderful stimulation of fungi. Now, as we were broad forking this, there's lots of worms. This is just the power of a lot of mulch, because nothing's ever been done to this little block before. This is the first time, and now we'll be just putting the balance of that 6 kilos out there. And we'll now put in some of the Life Force Gold and so forth. Okay. And he's going to pour 6 kilos into that, 8 kilos we're going to do of Life Force Gold. Now, there's a pelleted form and there's a non-pelleted form, and it's got says pellets on the bag, but it's actually the non-pelleted form. And I prefer, the pellets are good because if you're trying to apply them commercially, the pellets are much easier to spread. But in this kind of scenario, you're far better off just putting out the powder. It's much more surface area with a much smaller particle size. It kicks in much more quickly, and we want it to kick in. We don't want it to slowly release as a pellet. We want it to kick in immediately because we're planting directly into it. So Carl's just spreading. I don't think there'll be 6 kilos in that bucket. Do you think so? Maybe there is 8 kilos, so we might need a little more than that. But it's reasonable liberal sprinkling of the gold over the area. And as I mentioned, everything's in that, and it's all composted, so it's all complexed during the composting process. And then when we finish the gold, we'll continue with the carbon. And when we finish that, we'll begin the process. And I'll explain it now before we do it. But what we'll do is take the seedlings, which we've already bought, and there's quite a variety of them, and we'll dip them. We'll have a bucket here, and in that bucket, we'll have a powdered mycorrhizal inoculum called platform. Now, platform involves mycorrhizal fungi, several strains, and some trichoderma, and it also involves some bacillus species. So it's a really nice little consortium, a little concert of organisms that will be there for the life of that plant. And we're putting them on right from the start with this inoculation, where we dip the seedlings just for a minute in that solution. And in that solution, we also include a blend of minerals and stimulants, which is one of my favorite NTS products. It's a bit of a cheeky name, and it wasn't intended, but it's called Root and Shoot. And of course, the cheeky aspect is very Australian, but it wasn't intentional. I just realised later, oh my God, what have you called this? But Root and Shoot, wonderful. As I said, one of my favourites. It's got a whole suite. It's got all the trace minerals. It's got molybdenum, cobalt, selenium. It's got all the stimulants in there. And as a seed treatment, it's unparalleled, or a seedling treatment in this case. So we're going to put some of that with the platform. Platform quite likes the combination, the organisms in platform, the mycorrhizal fungi and trichoderma like the ingredients in this Root and Shoot product. So we'll include those. We'll dip them in. Now we've set them off. We've sent them off to a new life with some mother's milk, is effectively what you're doing with a good seedling treatment. And then we'll plant them, and then we might just sort of rake over this just for a second first, and rake in this so that we've got this material is sort of in that top inch or two. And then we'll plant them after we've seed treated them, and then our ongoing treatment will involve 2 products, and they're quite reasonably priced. It's in the Nutrition Gardening or Life Force Home Garden range. This product's called Total Cover. Now, one of our largest selling fertilizers is a complete fertilizer that's called Triple 10. It's got all of the trace minerals in there. It's got nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It's got things like selenium and everything, molybdenum, cobalt, the whole shooting. And then there's all sorts of stimulants in there. There's fulvic acid, humic acid, kelp, amino acids, triacontanol, and so forth. That's Triple 10. And what we did for the home market is say, okay, most home gardeners have never done trace minerals. So we took Triple 10 and we doubled the amount of trace minerals. It pulls back the amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium because you've diluted it with the extra trace minerals. So it's kind of like Triple 10 on steroids in terms of this double the trace mineral coverage. And it's wonderful for home gardeners because they don't do trace minerals. I mean, most commercial people use trace minerals regularly and home gardeners don't. So this becomes the foliar. You can put it in a watering can and water it, but it's much more effective to dilute it at 1 to 100 and just come out and foliar. We'll have a backpack, motorized backpack. We just go whoosh. I mean, the foliar on this garden will be 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes to cover the entire thing. It's nothing. Just pull a lever, whoosh. It's so quick. You can do it with a pump up spray, and it's going to take you a bit longer, but it's really, really quick, and you're more likely to do it. And we'll do that every couple of weeks during the crop cycle. So that covers everything, but there's 2 minerals that aren't included because they're not compatible with the phosphorus, the liquid phosphorus that's found in here. And those 2 minerals are calcium and magnesium, pretty important minerals. And they can't be combined because they form calcium phosphate and magnesium phosphate, both of which are insoluble. So the second part of the equation, in terms of it's a larger bottle, but we're not going to, there's a small bottle, there's a bottle just like this, but we forgot to bring it. It's called Trio. And Trio stands for the 3 minerals in that trio are calcium, magnesium, and even though there's boron already in Total Cover, we've actually added a little bit more boron because it's so deficient in so many soils. So the trio is calcium, magnesium, and boron. You can't combine them. So 1 week or one every 2 weeks or whatever you choose, you're going to do total cover and trio, total cover, trio, total cover, trio, and watch what happens. You've covered every base. You can't fail. It's gardening for dummies, but you watch because we'll show you photos of it and you can see for yourself what you can achieve. And anyone can do this. And please do it for the sake of yourself and your family, because there's nothing better for your health than fresh, nutrient-dense food that's consumed immediately. Okay, so we're going to prepare the solution into which we're going to dip our seedlings, because Carl's almost finished raking over the new garden that we've presented. So all the ameliorants we put in there have now been raked into that top few inches, and he's almost finished that. And so we're going to begin treating the seedlings, and we're all going to get stuck in and plant the seedlings. We're going to do this whole thing. It's like a world record new garden in an hour from a pile of weeds. And so we mentioned platform. We've already taken, there's the platform. That's the combination of mycorrhizal fungi, several strains, trichoderma, and some bacillus species. And the appropriate amount in the 10 litres of water that we're using here is about 40 grams. That's a luxury rate. So we're going to put that into the liquid. And then we're going to add a capful. It's pretty rough, but it's enough. A capful of root and shoot. We mentioned root and shoot. There it is, root and shoot. And we're going to put a capful, which is about 20 mils, into that liquid. That's good. And now we're going to take our seedlings and we're going to dip them. Now, I'll just explain some of the seedlings as we go. Now, the reason if we take those flowers, we're going to plant these along the outside border. And the reason, aside from being pretty, the reason we're going to plant these is that they have this resistance. They infer a little bit of resistance. They've got quite a strong smell, and they tend to put off insects. Sorry, they tend to put the insects off. So it looks pretty along the border of your garden, but we're going to plant marigolds for the insect resistance that they can confer. So before we do that, we're going to dip them in the solution, and we're going to dip them for long enough to stop bubbling. And it's not very long. I mean, it's literally, well, these are a little longer than normal, but that's long enough. So they're dripping out and all inoculated now. They've got the stimulant on the roots, and they've got the mycorrhizal fungi, and they'll have that for the rest of their life. So we've done that with all the seedlings. We're dipping them into this pot. We've got a nice hot chili plant. We've got some kale, and we've got a bunch of other things coming here. And now we're all going to get stuck in and plant them, and we'll space them. We'll plant the marigolds first along this outside edge, and I'll just take them and drop the seedlings, and then we can all get involved and plant some, and I'll just drop them where they're going to be planted. Okay, so we didn't have quite enough seedlings. In fact, we've still got a third of the bed to plant out, which we'll plant out in things like capsicums and maybe tomatoes, a variety of heirloom tomatoes, and maybe some cucumbers that will run on stands and so forth. So we've got that to do in the back, but you can see how quickly we've put together a food garden, and we'll let you have a look at the progress as the weeks go by. We'll take some shots from the same angle, and you can see how simple. We're going to mulch this now. We haven't got mulch, but we'll bring mulch in and mulch this garden. So very, very quick. It's under an hour for us to do the whole thing from scratch, brush cutting the weed, broad forking the entire thing, planting it out. Is under an hour for the whole job. So it's something of a record. I'm quite proud of it. But a lot of it comes down to this man in the corner, the broad fork wizard, who's also done most of the planting of the seedling. I laid them out, he planted them, but great effort from Carl. Thanks, Carl. Well, that's the end of this particular segment. I hope that helps with your formation of a productive food garden, and we'll see you next time.